We will have a special guest joining us a little bit later on, but I think for now I will kick it off and then whoever toddles in later can join later. It's recording, so Ollie doesn't yell at me. Perfect. All right. So officially, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining me tonight for something a little bit different. So, as is always the way, new whiskies are cropping up all the time, and sometimes there just isn't enough to do a cohesive tasting. Like as we'll see with the Bunnahabhain and the Ledaig, we didn't get a massive range of new cool stuff, though there is more cool new Bunnahabhain inbound. We'll chat about that later. So yeah, I love that tonight we're doing a little kind of lucky dips of drams that we've gotten in over the past few months, and we're cracking them open to share with you. It'll be mostly family tonight. Ollie will be joining in a little bit later. Um, and yes, I was hoping that our boots on the ground, Jimmy in Sydney, would be joining us as well. But we will just be having our special guest join us a little later on. So they will be chatting through one of the whiskies specifically, and I'm sure you probably all guessed at who it might be coming on board. But let's not delay. I'll quickly go through the housekeeping. Obviously, full housekeeping video is always shared in the Zoom link email for you. Don't drink and drive. That's just the main core one from that video. It's always up on our YouTube channel along with recordings of our virtual tastings. Pop your notes and questions in the chat. Your tasting notes and questions. I will try and get as many answers for you as I possibly can. And if the first question is it in stock? The answer is yes. That's an easy, easy one I can answer now. Quickly going through the tasting order for people watching back. Whiskey number 1 is the Bushmills 18. Number 2 is a Thompson Port Cask Australian exclusive. Number 3 is the Bunnahabhain Turas 15-year-old. Number 4 is the Thompson with a P Brothers, 2004 Bruichladdich 21. Whiskey number 5 is the Ledaig Hebridean Moon, and whiskey number 6 is the Star Hill Farm Wheat Whiskey. So I'm going to have to stop petting my cat for a second, and he's going to be very upset. But let's crack into whiskey number 1, the Bushmills 18-year-old, and get sipping on that. So I feel like Bushmills kind of got like a little bit of a revamp a little while ago, and we're now starting to see more and more of their duty-free exclusive releases kind of coming in to the country. So this 18-year-old was part of their like revamp of the travel retail expressions. And it's starting that brands are giving more attention to the travel retail products. I think, sure, those of you who travel know that for the longest time, Octomore was the only exciting travel retail bottle out there. But yeah, they're really getting into it. And the 18-year-old is exclusive to Ireland and Australia Pacific and Asia Pacific as of May this year. So obviously, at the Whiskey List, we knew we had to get our hands on a couple of bottles, considering that the rest of the world is being deprived of this until 2026. And the idea kind of behind this whiskey was part of making it their World Wood series. Try saying that 3 times fast. But yeah, they were kind of like celebrating unusual different styles of wood globally. So the maturation on this 18-year-old is predominantly ex-bourbon cask and a bit of Oloroso sherry cask, which are very like traditional for the distillery. But then it's given a final finish in, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, Colheita port casks from a bodega in Portugal's Douro Valley. And I think we've seen a few kind of expressions in Colheita port casks. Has anyone tried the lakes Colheita? Yeah, some yes, some no. Yeah, I think because it was like a blended whiskey, it didn't quite get as much attention as some of the like the Lake single malts. Um, I think they did one in Colheita, but I'm not 100% certain. But yeah, what makes Colheita different to like traditional Portuguese ports, and like more classical styles is that it's restricted in like the vintages that you can have of the grapes. So you can only use grapes from a single year's harvest, whereas traditional tawny and ruby port are blended for consistency and flavor. Like you'll get cross vintages, so it's like that's why it'll say between 10 and 15 years. But Kohita doesn't get blended like that. It's just a single year vintage, aged for a minimum of 7 years. According to the Bushmills Master Blender, the casks used for this release were 15 to 20 years old, around about. Obviously, they're using multiple casks, so they are giving a time range. But yeah, so I'm curious to see. I know a couple of tasting notes already coming in. Howard's getting vanilla pods. Leah's getting dry sherry and oak notes on the nose. I still have to sip it. It's in my glass, but when you're talking, you can't be sipping. But yeah, I read from a lot of people that there was a pleasant surprise in terms of like travel retail expressions. And I think that like maybe this is just me and you guys can chime in. I prefer Irish whiskey when it's older. Like I just think that young Irish whiskey is just too much green apple, but like the older it gets, it actually starts to really tone itself down. That's kind of me. I'm a Scotch drinker, so curious to see who in the room who's an Irish whiskey fan is your opinions on that. Mm, mm, cool. I will say the Bushmills team didn't say how long it was matured in the port casks. Um, so yeah, which makes it kind of more curious, I suppose. Whether it was a shorter finish or longer, because yeah, I agree with Howard. It's very dry on the palate. It's got that more like leathery, like fruit leather kind of thing to it. Oh, look at Andreas. You were like, yes, leather, fruit leather, strawberry leather. Yeah, I uh definitely get that vibe. Rob says how they get you and give it a week in port cask and you can sell it as a finish. I do feel like it definitely spent more than a week. Well, let's be honest, it does taste like it spent more than a week. Rob says too. Um, but yeah, I definitely feel like it's a lot more sherried than I think perhaps I was anticipating. I mean, obviously it is disappointing that it's 46%. I feel like this closer to a 48, maybe 50% ABV could have brought out more of that syrupiness. Leo says, I remember Chris was raving about this before it arrived. Yeah, Chris is a sucker for like old, dusty, dry sherry whiskies. He really is. Like, eats them right up. Rob wants it at 58% ABV. Classic Aussie vibes. Um, but yeah, I think it's definitely, I mean, like again, for a Irish single malt, which is not my favorite category, it is very approachable. It reminds me of a lot of the English whiskies that I have been tasting recently, like Wireworks and stuff like that. Chris is old, dusty, and dry. That is not my opinion. That is Rob's opinion. I do not stand behind that. I do not endorse that. He's not that much older than me, so you can't really talk. But yeah, Michael, I agree. A little bit higher ABV would do this the world. But I imagine as well when you're looking at travel retail, it's sort of like, well, who is your market? Who is your demographic? You would be like, oh, well, people who have the money to travel is the demographic. But then who are the people who actually stop and look in the duty-free section, whiskey section in the airport? Um, so which is like me. I always have to look. I never want to buy, but I always want to look. So yeah, I'm curious to see if they like if more research could be done on and who is actually stopping into the whiskey section. Um, but yeah, Sebastian says it's good, but a bit too easy to drink. But enjoyable. Still a bit of spice on the finish second time around. Yeah, definitely. but like very, very pleasant, very flavorful to start us off. Like definitely I definitely wouldn't be mad if someone brought me back a bottle of this traveling. Like I'm pretty sure, yeah, I think that works. Yeah, duty free people who don't really understand the euro are paying for less than the best whiskey. Yeah, well, sometimes they do come up with really cool releases or like intriguing releases, like the Bruichladdich sherry cask matured one. I was just like, ooh, interesting, curious. Things that they wouldn't typically do as part of their core range, or if they did, it would be like a super ultra rare limited edition because we put it in this sherry cask, same room as a sherry cask for like, a month or something. But yeah, it's interesting to see. Um, but uh, we have been joined by a very special secret guest tonight. And we might move on to whiskey number two, and I will get him to tell you a little bit about his whiskey. So if we all want to crack into the Thompson without the P, port cask Aussie exclusive.
Nice one. Thanks, Emma. Thanks, Emma. Jesus Christ. Makes me want to say, yeah, there's no P in this whiskey, Jesus. Thanks a lot. Honored to be here at this tasting. And that sounded like a great dram that you were having before. The I really love I mean, I'm primarily a Scotch whiskey drinker as well. I lived in Ireland for about 5 years and I really love Irish whiskey. When I'm judging whiskey competitions, I really love the Irish category because it's so delicate. It's very nice. So yeah. Anyway, this one that we've got here, the port cast finish, it's the only ever port cast that we've ever used for anything ever, and we don't have any others aging. New Zealand doesn't have really a fortified wine industry like there is in Australia. And although there are people like Pocono that are doing a great job bringing in some sherry casks, primarily we're trying to make New Zealand whiskey, and so we use a lot of wine casks and we use ex-bourbon barrels because they're, everyone uses ex-bourbon barrels and they're nice for their vanillins and things. So this one, the winemaker that we use. Thompson whiskey is northwest of Auckland, and it's on the outskirts of Auckland where Auckland becomes fields again. So we've got about three wineries that I really like. There's a couple that I don't like that are in close proximity, and I know the winemakers. And one day I called James looking for some wine casks, and he said, "Oh, I've been thinking about you, Matt. I emptied a port cask yesterday," and I went, well, yeah. Why didn't you call me? Yeah, that's what I feel like. Lucky that I happened to call you today. He's like, oh, do you want it? And so yeah, I went round and got it. So the story with this whiskey is, and it says it on the bottle if anyone happens to get a bottle of this. So it went into an ex-bourbon barrel, which for us is Jack Daniels. We use Jack Daniels casks. 19th of the 12th, 2019, went into the Jack Daniels cask. And then on the 7th of the 3rd, 2024, I acquired the port cask, which I moved it into. I thought we may as well put some whiskey that had, rather than putting it in the port cask and have to wait, 5 years or so. I thought let's do a finish on this one. And then we drew it down 21st of the 8th this year. Now, what happened when I actually was filling the cask, I happened to get a call from Chris at the Whiskey List, just about something, just about whatever it was. And I said, oh, I'm filling a port cask. And he went, oh, really? Oh, wow. Yeah, we want that. Yeah. Um, and then later on, when I was coming over to Sydney to do a tasting at the Oak Barrel, they said, oh, can you bring a sample of something? Hey, have you got that port cask? Like they remembered. And so we brought a sample over, and that was the favorite on the night, and it went down really well. So then they said, right, we want that cask. So they got it, and a few people. So this is an Australian exclusive. Unfortunately, none of it. I mean, I happen to have like a bottle for me, but none of it was for sale in New Zealand, and a few people were a bit upset. So Thompson whiskey, we're famous for Manuka smoked single malt whiskey, where we get the barley smoked with Manuka wood. We also do peated, New Zealand peated malt as well. And so you often get so although this is not a smoky whiskey, you'll often get a carryover in foreshots and feints with some smoke. And there is a little bit of underlying smoke in there. We're also, obviously, we're copper pot stills, 1800 litre wash, 1000 litre spirit. And we're direct fire gas, and we've got worm condensers. So that's pretty much the most traditional setup. Now with the worm condensers, you're getting some meaty kind of flavors like you might get in Mortlock, Old Pulteney. There's kind of like a little bit of lavender, and some quite, it's quite a robust spirit. And partly because we mainly make smoky whiskey, you probably all know, when you're making a cut for smoky whiskey, you take a later cut, as that's when the smoke comes over, when the still is hotter and the oils are coming over. So although, again, this is a non-smoky whiskey, it's a late cut whiskey with a worm condenser. So it's got that oily kind of meaty style to it. And then we've got on the tasting notes here, so we'll see if they're correct. Fig, golden syrup, clove, ripe stone fruits, what else? Lavender, things like that. And I feel like we get the golden syrup, clove and stuff.
Yeah.
Any comments on that one?
Yeah, I'm definitely getting the cloves. It's that like really, growing up part Greek, when you eat baklava, they always shove a clove in the middle of it
Yeah,
for decoration,
yeah.
and it really tastes like I accidentally ate the whole clove that was on it
Yeah,
as well.
yeah,
And
yeah.
it's that pungent, but then you got that honeyed sweetness and the flaky pastry kind of backing it up as well. But really, really cool. And so for your spirit runs, and Howard's got a great question that kind of follows on. For your spirit runs, you're not cleaning the still between peated and unpeated runs. You're just kind of running some through, is it? Or
Well, I would wash it out, like we would sort of basically water blast it out, but you can't get right up into the column, and into the condenser. So, and there's a kind of, the inside of the still gets in parts sort of blackish, with a kind of oxide, not the green copper oxide, but um, it's it's not like buff, shiny stainless, like it can sort of hold some flavor. And effectively, it's kind of, we wash it out, but it's kind of cleaned by the foreshots coming through. The foreshots basically cleans it, and then the middle cut comes through. Um, but we do, I would do a run. We keep the foreshots and feints separate. We don't use Manuka smoke foreshots and cleaner, but inevitably there's some sort of contamination from the whole system.
yeah, cool. Well, Howard's got a great question, which is to tell us about the peat that you use because it's got a very unique taste. So the peat that you source for your releases.
So the peat comes from the bottom of the South Island in Southland. And it's an inland peat as opposed to a Isla peat. So, over millennia, it doesn't have seaweed in it, and the sort of real pungent qualities. I mean, also peating peating malt in New Zealand is, well, young, and it isn't young because it was actually in the 1890s when the first distilleries started in New Zealand. There are records of them importing peat from Scotland. So in the 1890s, they were peating malt in New Zealand, and wanted some Scottish malt from home, I guess. So Scottish peat from home. However, in the history of New Zealand whiskey, a Scottish bank lent us the money for our railroads, and they stopped excise protection on New Zealand whiskey distilleries, and didn't grant any distilling licenses until the late 60s. So that alone from a Scottish bank knocked out our early fledgling whiskey industry, and arguably we got terrible railways from that. They're really skinny, and the max our trains can travel is 80 kilometers an hour. So if you like line up next to a train on the motorway, you're going faster than it. Um, but yeah, so basically it's a New Zealand inland peat, if that helps.
Cool. Yeah, some great comments coming through. Michael's definite smokiness on the palate also comes with baking spices, lavender, honey, red stone fruits. Um, Leo doesn't want to open his bottle as he knows it'll quickly disappear when he when he does. Yeah. That pork cask, because obviously, you know, you don't have as much of a, I mean, fascinating that Australia had this port history dating
Mm.
back to the 1800s, but New Zealand never really took up on it. But that port cask, are you planning to use it for a second fill, like release down the line?
Well, it wasn't really, I mean, it doesn't like if we try it, it's not like over the top porty, I don't feel like it's yum, but it's not in your face kind of port. So I feel like if we do a second run in it, it's not going to have that much to give. Um,
Mm.
but now that you say that, I should look at what I did with this because
Yeah, yeah. Look at what you've got, and then in 3 weeks, Chris will call you when it's ready by accident.
yeah. Because no, I had to go off for a European trip. We went to the London Whisky Show and Whisky Live Hamburg and other things, and we had to get this one out and over to you guys with a whole lot of stuff, that I had to do. So we emptied it, and you guys requested bottling at cask strength, so we did that. Um, and then I haven't refilled the cask, but so it's around. So maybe I should look at that and then refill it, and we'll just see, in say 5 years' time what it's looking like. Because I think it will still taste really good. Incidentally, in New Zealand, we're getting about 6% angel share, and Thompson whiskey normally releases around 5 or 6 years old.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, it's interesting to see that. Yeah, it dropped so much because obviously in Australia it tends to go up in ABV. I imagine is New Zealand or where you're based in New Zealand more of a humid climate? I know that the humidity can sometimes like balance off whether water or alcohol evaporates.
Well, good question there. So it's fairly evenly warm. Auckland's an isthmus, so it's got a harbour on each side. A really cold on a really cold day's high would be say 8 degrees. And you get a few frosts a year, so it's obviously dipped to like 1 degrees or zero overnight, like maybe 3 times, and then a really hot day would be 30 degrees. So it's fairly even. But to answer your question about the dropping or going up or down, in a distance of about 3 or 4 meters high, at the top we can have the ABV going up, and at the bottom going down, and sort of in the middle remaining about the same. So it's losing liquid, but it can remain about the same. We barrel at 56% ABV. I theorized when I was starting out, quite a few years ago now, that, well, one, we don't swap cask like they do in Scotland, so there's no reason to be at 63.5, and the climate's different. And in Kentucky, where it's hotter, the max they can put in is 62.5, and they'll sometimes be in the mid 50s. Plus, the lower ABV you put it in the cask, the more cask you need, so it's effectively an expensive thing to do. But it also means you add less water when it comes to bottling time. So I did an experiment with oak chips and spirit and looked at the flavors at different ABVs, and we settled on 56, which is partly why our cask strengths are so low, because this is 51.6, which, a 20-year-old Scotch might be at that ABV because it's dropped slowly over time. But I feel like it's good. When I did the experiment, the higher the ABV was, the less extraction you were getting from the oak, and so I felt like in this climate, I felt like this was really good.
Cool. I will say, having, I caught up with a friend who worked in the Scottish whiskey industry recently. She was telling me, she was like, yeah, the standard is 63.5, but you'll fill it and then it'll get to the warehouse for testing and it's like higher or lower, and they're like, yeah, good enough.
Yeah.
That it is actually far more inconsistent than,
Oh yeah.
they kind of make it seem. But yeah, super cool. Leo's
Well,
got a great suggestion as well. Put some 2-year-old bourbon cask in that bourbon cask spirit in that port barrel and leave it for like 4 to 5 years. I think,
yeah, well, I should do it because it's basically been a year in the port cask. So exactly, we should exactly put some 2 year in of whiskey, then you wait another 3 or 4 years and see what it's like.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you so, so much, Matt, for joining us. I know you don't have the rest of the whiskeys in front of you. That seems like an oversight on our part. We
Yeah,
should have sent you
I
the
was
whole
listening
kit.
to that first one going, oh yeah, I would like some of that. So yeah, I might sign off as well because I went to a concert last night and I'm a bit tired actually.
No
Um,
stress.
but that was
Well,
great. That was great to connect with you guys, and you run a great tasting. It was great listening to you. So
thank you for joining us. Take care and rest up.
take care. Enjoy the tasting. Cheers, guys.
Thanks.
Bye.
Alrighty. Well, we might move on to whiskey number 3, the Bunnahabhain. So, and thank you again, Matt, for joining us. So yeah, we're moving on to back to Scotland uh, with whiskey number 3. This is the Turas, and yes, I have confirmation from a former tour guide at Bunnahabhain that that is how you pronounce it. She had moved over to Australia, and if you were at the Oak Barrel Fair, you might have met her. It was the first thing we asked her when she walked in the door. We were like, how do you pronounce this?" So she was just, accosted by us for all of the Gaelic answers. But yes, so Tuarasma is Gaelic for setting sail, which makes sense as this is part of a new series that Bunnahabhain is doing called the Westering Home Collection. So not sure how up on Scottish folk songs you guys are, but Westering Home is a traditional Scottish folk song back from the 1920s, and it's about Isla, going home to the Western Isles and stuff. Apparently, it's a slow march song that they play for the Scottish Royal Navy, which is a cool trivia fact that will never get asked. Um, But Westering Home is also a nod to the Bunnahabhain 12-year-old expression, the original one that was released back in 1979 with the name Westering Home on it and the sea captain image that they still use on the bottles today. This Westering Home collection features 3 whiskies that were initially released for Fèis Isle this year, so 2025. So what we are tasting now is number 1. They just did number 1, number 2, number 3. So number 1, which I think someone mentioned, the nose is amazing. Yes, I can smell it from my glass. I can't wait to sip it. So this is a 15-year-old. It's a vatting of 2 parcels. So one was full maturation ex Manzanilla sherry cask, which is bonkers bananas. That it was full sherry like that. And then the other parcel was ex-bourbon finished in Amarone Italian red wine casks for 5 years. So they've added that together, and this is the release that we have. The Bunna tour guide is telling me that they long sold out at the distillery. She was like, I have not seen a bottle of this in like forever. I can't believe you guys still have it. So it went very quickly at Fèis Festival, apparently. Whiskey number 2 from the Westering Home Collection was a no age statement of ex-bourbon casks finished in Spanish Palo Cortado sherry. And number 3 from the Turas Westering Home is a 19-year-old that was finished in an Armagnac cask, which I think is probably the first one that they've done at Bunnahabhain distillery, with the Armagnacs coming from the Gascony region in France. And if we time this right, I'm pretty sure the VIP tour will be at Bunnahabhain today, so we can pester them into bringing back a bottle of the other two Westering home releases. We can do another virtual tasting with it. But yeah, I'm not sure how the time zones will work, but maybe we can all harass them right now. But what is most kind of intriguing about all three of these releases is that they were unpeated. Um, the distillery is still producing peated spirit, which is something that I've chatted to the distillery manager about. Most of that is going to the independent bottling market. And they traditionally do a peated release for Fèis every year, but yeah, this year it was all unpeated. So really, really interesting to see that they're, pushing all of the more of the peated spirit towards the IB market, and then the unpeated spirit for their core range. Thank you, Alan, for linking the poem "Westering Home." It is lovely. We should all read more poetry. We really should. Um, I'm glad I didn't make the Chris faux pas of calling it Amarone. Fortified wine. No, no, no. I may not know a lot about wine, but I've been to Italy. I know Italian wines when I see them. Yeah, it is quite like a fruity style Italian red from my understanding. Um, Rob, geez, I thought I'd enjoyed the other two, then this came along. I'm really curious to see how we vote at the end for what our top whiskies are. Um, but yeah, Ollie jumping in. What, are you allowed to be? Yeah, you're allowed to be a co-host. I was like just making sure I haven't got him on mute for later on when he will chat over some of the whiskies. Um, Howard says less poetry, more whiskey. ¿Por qué no las dos? Why not both? There's room in the world. Robert Louis Stevenson was, a big proponent and wrote a lot about Talisker and some of the distilleries. So, just saying we can have both. But yeah, the nose it's almost cranberries. It smells like Thanksgiving dinner. Like, if that doesn't sound delusional, it's that like cranberry sauce that you put on turkey and stuff like that. And like the manzanilla gives it a nuttiness. Um, mm, mm, yeah, it's like I feel like the wine cask and the manzanilla sherry kind of make up for the unpeatedness, if that kind of makes sense. It's like it gives it that spice character. Rob says only poems with the word Nantucket. We're not going to make comments on your education level, Rod. Rob, sorry. But yeah, no, very, very cool. I'm curious to see. Michael says there's quite a bit of depth to this. Um, and yeah, really, really interesting. Um, so Ollie, did we want to do the Star Hill and move it up before the peated ones? I might leave it to a vote for you guys. Do you want to do the wheat whiskey before we start the peated stuff? Traditionally, for me, I always end on American whiskey because it's so bombastic. I think it can hold up. But no, Andreas forgot the Star Hill was in this pack and opened his bottle last week. It's all right. Now you can just double dip. I can like put the sample back into the bottle. Um, yeah, I'm kind of curious. Bradley says no. Yeah, yeah, it's great. Cool. All right. Ollie, I think it can hold up the end. Um, I for me, like at Whiskey and Ailment, we would always have peated whiskies and then we would move on to the American whiskey. So like for me it just makes sense. But um yeah,
That's all right. Let's do the laddie first. Good evening to everyone. So many familiar faces in the room. Good to see you all. It's been too long. All right. crack open whiskey number 4, which is
Yes.
the Thompson Brothers 2004 Bruichladdich. It's a 21-year-old first fill barrel
This
single
is
malt Scotch
Thompson
whiskey.
with a P.
Did Matt jump on earlier on?
He did jump on, and I was like, Thompson without a P, and he was like, there's no P, no P in this. I was like, oh, he doesn't know what other whiskeys are on the lineup. He has no frame of reference for what I'm saying. So yes, Thompson Brothers, Thompson with a P coming up next. Also quickly, Leo, can we agree that Bunnahabhain's the only answer to the question, which distillery would you choose if you could only drink one for the rest of your life? As a Tobermory diehard fan for Ledaig, I will have to politely disagree with you. We can all fight it out in the comments. And yes, Alan, there is no P in this whiskey, even though there's a P in the name. But yeah, so this one was really curious. I think I will say it, Ollie, you guys are hoarding this bottle. I didn't even know this bottle existed or that we had it. So go on
I didn't know until Chris scheduled this tasting. I'm an Isla fiend, and it's not even in my collection behind me. I didn't even know we got this in the country. How we've missed announcing this bottle. It snuck through. So you guys are the very first to try it. Chris said we're including it because we haven't talked about it. And I go, we should be jumping to the masses and singing about this. But for a few different reasons. Let me quickly start off. So Thompson Brothers, they're an independent bottler, but they've got a very cool story. So it's what are their names again? Simon and Josh? Phil. Dornoch Castle. They have a hotel there. They've basically amazing whiskey bar, and they've been around for 25 years. And this is that 25-year celebrationary bottling that they've done to celebrate their bar, basically been running. And they've got some incredible whiskies. Their brothers are basically got into whiskey from a young age. They tell the story way better than me. But long story short is that their love of whiskey has evolved from a bar to they started independently bottling. They source whiskey from brokers, from distilleries. They fill at new make. They buy whiskey ready to go. They mature. They finish. They do all the kinds of things you expect in an independent bottler. They always, I guess, predominantly go for their style, which is, distillate style first. They don't want to use too many fortifieds. Like, they play around with everything, but for them, they like the spirit character to come first. Very similar to Angus MacReld from Decadent Drinks. So, and they're really good mates. After they've been independent bottling for quite a while, they've actually started their own distillery, which is at the same location, Dornoch. And they are planning to do a very much a bourbon cask finish distillate, focused kind of new make, and that's they're going to be predominantly filling in the cask. But whilst that whiskey, when 2021, they fired up their stills for the first time. So, whilst legally whiskey can be called Scotch whiskey in Scotland after 3 years, they don't want to launch one that soon. They want to wait for a few more years to. Unlike Australia, with our fast hot climate maturation, it's going to take 5 to 10 years before they actually are comfortable releasing something. So, in the meantime, to raise some cash flow and to build up their audience and get people used to their style of whiskies, they have this independent bottler called the Thompson Brothers. And yeah, this is one of their whiskies. This is the 25th celebrationary one. I made some quick notes because it's been a while since I tried it. It's a first fill barrel, cask number 639, 54.9% ABV, and 182 bottles were produced from this cask from Bruichladdich distillery. So it's unpeated. It's Bruichladdich. Bruichladdich got Port Charlotte and Octomore, and then they've got 2 others, Rins and Lockendale, that they do for their sort of IBs and stuff like that. But yeah, this is very much a Bruichladdich. And they've purchased this, I believe, quite young, and then they've matured it in their bond stores, not on Isla, for a portion of the time. So had a bit of Isla maturation and some mainland maturation as well. So it's a very cool example of a Bruichladdich. A lot of Bruichladdich IBs will just get bottled, or even just the cask will leave Isla and then bottled on the mainland. So I think you get a little bit of that mainland maturation through. Feel free to jump in with your tasting notes. I can see Leo and Mike already jumping in. Floral notes, vanilla, white stone fruit, apricots, jammy, fresh honey, and heather notes. Yeah, I agree. I got dried fruits, that subtle maritime Isla coastal notes, a bit of citrus and orchard fruits for me, and not too much cask influence. So yeah, it's a very interesting whiskey. I enjoy it.
Yeah, I got a bit of like marzipan and like white chocolate. That really kind of those little Greek sugar-coated almonds type thing, but the florals coming through really strongly as well. Um, yeah, I think like the brothers are really cool because and obviously 25 years with the castle in the family. They were working at the bar, at the whiskey bar at the castle because it was their parents' business, and that really like made them fall in love, particularly with older styles of whiskey as well. Yeah, not to be confused with the Thompson twins, no, Thompson brothers. Uh, they do look very similar though, so I can never tell them apart. But yeah, so they really fell in love with this older style of whiskey. I think someone was saying, yeah, Leo, they have a 1950s bottle of Lafroig, like just whiskey flavors and profiles that you don't get anymore. And so when they decided to start up Dornoch, they wanted to really create that distillate forward profile. But uh, yeah, very, very much raised on old boy, old school whiskies, which I kind of love. And I think obviously they're mates with Angus, and they very much share that love of wanting to revive that older style of whiskey production, which is really, really cool. Um, yeah, curious to kind of see how this goes in. Ah, Ollie, yes. So yeah,
So
so
that
it's castle,
uh,
accommodation, restaurant, whiskey bar, distillery, the works. It's all on one site. Um, yeah.
and that's
Mhm.
inside. It's like a tiny shed, like a
Tiny,
yeah.
tiny, tiny. And I believe as well, you can kind of see the black around their still. They were one of the first Scottish distilleries to start using this heat capture paint thing. Like, I'm not a chemist, I don't know what the technical name for it is, but I saw it when I was at Cooper King Distillery. They have it on theirs as well. But it's this paint that you put on the outside of the still and it retains the heat. So when I was at Cooper King, he was like, you can touch the still as long as you touch the black part, even though it's running right now. It keeps all of that in order to like produce more efficient, like keep the heat in more efficiently. And yeah, really cool that the science and the things that are being experimented with um, and obviously theirs is more of an alembic style still as well. So it's that balance between tradition and then like efficiency and stuff. But yeah, I think it was this Bruichladdich, and then there was a Glen Scotia were the two whiskies they released to celebrate 25 years of guardianship, ownership, curatorship of the castle. Um, but yeah, really, really cool stuff. Mm. Alrighty. Might move
Do
into
we like this whiskey? Yay or
yeah.
nay? Thumbs up.
Thumbs up, thumbs down. Two thumbs up from Michael. Ooh. Rob says it's chewier than I would have expected. Yeah, definitely. It doesn't quite hit that like pork fattiness that you sometimes get from Bruichladdich, but it's definitely textural. Like it's not, yeah. I get them more uh from like Port Charlotte's, but yeah, that fatty prosciutto fatty quality to it is really quite nice. So, oh, look, everyone's going with the emojis. If I knew how to do it, I would. But yeah, amazing. Well, we might move on to something we were briefly talking about previously, and how much we love it and I love it. But we'll move on to the Ledaig Hebridean Moon 10-year-old whiskey. So pour that one up. So this is a whiskey I feel like we've been waiting a long time for at the whiskey list, or at least I have, because there'd been whispers for a while that they were going to release a cask strength version of their classic Ledaig 10. And yeah, this is it. This is here finally released. This is the first time I think they've done a cask strength version of a beloved product at Tobermory, like a core range that wasn't a limited release in a different cask finish. I know they've done Tobermory 12s in different casks and stuff like that. But probably the popularity of the Bunnahabhain 12 cask strength probably helped push them to finally do it. And now now Bunnahabhain's doing the 21-year-old cask strength, which I believe is on the ship, Ollie. Is it inbound?
Yes.
Excellent. Yay. Because I got to try it at the distillery and I've been so excited ever since. But yeah, very, very exciting. So what's unique about this Ledaig release as well is that the spirit came off of their new stills that were installed in 2014. So it was part of a massive upgrade renovation to replace the aging equipment at the site. Especially because, like, you have to think about the fact that the distillery was either shut for long periods of time or it was being operated by people who weren't really invested in the capacity or the efficiency of the production. Like, there was that brief period in the late 80s, early 90s where a real estate company owned it and they were like, we made some whiskey, but it's shit. So, yeah, they did a full kind of revamp. A new set of stills was replaced in 2014 as a pair. You typically replace stills as a pair, a spirit and a wash. And then there's 2 additional pairs of stills that are original to when it was bought in 1992. But the name Hebridean Moon was used as a reference to the Ballascate standing stones. I think that's how you pronounce it, Ballascate, which are on the Isle of Mull, and they're supposedly supposed to align with the lunar cycle. So that's where kind of the moon element came from. It didn't come out of nowhere. But yeah, like I didn't know. Apparently they're a short walk up from behind the pottery shop on Mull, but they're unique to the Western Isles. Ballascate was the name for an early settlement on Mull before the village of Tobermory was officially formed in 1788. And if that year twigged for you like it did for me, it kind of helps explain a lot why the original name for the distillery was Ledaig and not Tobermory. Because you got to think about it. At that point, when John Sinclair opened it, the town would have only officially existed as Tobermory for 10 years. So you're not going to be like, I'm going to name my distillery after the town, which is brand new and fresh and could collapse at any time. So I'm going to give it a Gaelic name that fits with where, I think it's going to be. So yeah, really, really cool. But yeah, what do we got? Sebastian loves the 18. Everyone loves the 18. The 18 is the overachiever of the family. It is like the perfect dram because I've given it to people who are not massive fans of peated whiskey and they are still like, oh, this is actually quite nice. This is actually quite enjoyable. I gave my mum some Ledaig as a non-whiskey drinker and she's like, it intrigues me. And I was like, yes. It's one of those spirits that just has this like creamy quality to it, which I love. Leo tried this at the Canberra Whiskey Show and it stood out even many drams in. Yeah, Alan, wow, such pepper. Rob says it's got quite a finish on it. So good. Yeah, it feels I don't know for you guys, if you're getting this, but again, it might be a while since you've had the core 10. It feels brighter somehow. It feels like a lot brighter than the regular 10. The classic 10 feels like a little bit more sandy beaches and a bit oily. And for me, this is like closer to that kind of grassy elements coming out of it. And
Fresher
yeah,
casks, maybe.
fresher casks. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting as well. When I was helping to create a gin for my friend, we tried it at like different ABV strengths, and it was shocking how and a whiskey of hers as well, it was shocking how different the notes were every time you moved to ABV points. Like it was really, really interesting. Leo's getting a vegetal note on the nose I can't quite place. It's got like a kind of fig leaf kind of thing, not figs, but fig leaf. Maybe what's a this is gonna sound terrible. Turnips or Swedes? That kind of like root veggie, like a nice that sweeter style root vegetable. Yeah.
For me, there's one element of Ledaig that always shines through, and I call it liquid bonfire. Like it, unlike your Isla Peats, where your Lafroigs can be quite medicinal, and they all have a bit of a slight flavour. Ledaig just consistently is liquid bonfires for me. It's and it works so well with so many different cask types, including red wine casks, which a lot of Scotch distilleries just I personally, for my palate, I think red wine doesn't work as well, but Ledaig is very versatile. Sweet peat, it's delicious. It's got that brininess, that ashiness as well, always.
Yeah, like I would agree with that. It's one of those whiskeys that just works with anything, and you could do it, you could finish it in something, you can fully mature it in something, and it handles it really well. I think it's probably the best way to say it. One of my unicorn whiskeys is an 18-year-old fully Oloroso cask matured Ledaig. Um, and I think it wasn't long after I started working for the whiskey list, there was the 22-year-old Pedro Jimenez cask, limited release. It was like full maturation PX, and it was just phenomenal and spectacular. So I still got a bottle of that kicking around. But yeah, Andre says it's delicious. Leo says vine leaves. Yeah, that kind of vine leaves. Michael, salty minerality, peaty seaweed, iodine sweetness, germaline vibes. Germaline, what's some of the other ones called? Um, it's not betadine. The panthen. It's another one of those antiseptic creams. The panthen. Yeah, Matthew couldn't pick that note until you said antiseptic. Yeah, it's one of those like weird tones that's like I don't know why it works, but it does. Sebastian loves peated, but I can't do Lafroig. Don't know why. I'm the same. It tastes like 2-week-old steamed asparagus to me. It's not my jam, and I'm more than happy for more of Lafroig to go to the rest of you guys. I will just keep all the Ledaig. Yeah, definitely different. Not all peat is created equal. I feel like, but you could say that of all whiskies. Ollie asked a great question. Does anyone prefer the normal Ledaig 10-year-old versus this cask strength? You know, Howard shaking his head, no, no. Well, it is a resounding nose in the chat, which is cool. Yeah, cask strength
What are
always.
we? It's 46.3 versus this one's 58.8. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. I do appreciate as well that the core range is 46.3. Like I was at a event with Delmore the other day, and the core releases were like 43% across the board, and it was just like, this is good. I really wish it was like a 48. You could have just brought it up to a 48 and it would have been spectacular. But yeah, obviously we don't make those decisions. The money people at the distillery do. Um, but yeah, definitely one of those one of those wishes that it would be just a little bit stronger, a little bit more viscous. Um, so yeah, Michael says cast strength always. Andreas for this. Yeah. Amazing. Well, we might move on to the final whiskey of the evening. So, we have saved it for last. I know that someone earlier mentioned that it was spectacular. So, we should be ending on a good note, but I am going to hand this one over to Ollie as well, because I think this one came into the whiskey list and it sold out so bloody, like we sold so much of it so quickly. I never even got the chance to try it. So this is my first time tasting it. But yeah, I understand this is the first ever wheat whiskey from Maker's Mark.
Yes, and before I jump into this whiskey, I'll give you the summary of Rob Samuels is the current sort of managing director of Maker's Mark, and he visited Australia for the launch of this, and I got to tag along to one of his trade masterclass sessions he did with a few bartenders and retailers. I think this is a really cool story. Whether or not you love bourbon, care about Maker's Mark or anything like this, what they're trying to do with this and sort of the ecological direction of the distillery is very cool. But just to take it back a step, so everyone's hopefully seen Maker's Mark. They've got a few different variants. They've been around for a very long time. Long before Prohibition. I'm not going to bore you with all the details. You can Google about Maker's Mark, but something that's always very distinctive is sort of their bottle and this red wax that they sort of dip in, and that's all done by hand still. They've got the same people bottling line, the bottles come out, they dip it in the wax. For them, it's a family-owned business, even though they're owned by a conglomerate. The Rob Samuels, the managing director, they have very strict controls. You can't tell us how to make the whiskey. You are there to help us distribute it globally. And it's a bit of a church and state setup. And for that, they have retained a lot of this, family traditional direction that and gives them this control to basically not be affected by sort of market forces and stuff like that. They were farmers first and foremost, and for them, distilling was a way to use leftover grains that they couldn't use to feed themselves, to turn into to sell, or to feed the cattle or whatever it is, the sheep. Or they distilled it, and that's how they got into distilling. And that's how a lot of distillers back then got into it. For a long time, they've only just focused on one type of Maker's Mark, and that hadn't changed. It's sort of only in the last sort of 40, 50 years, as the family's gone through multiple generations, they've released a cask strength version. They've done some, other versions of it. I'm not going to go into the details, but they've expanded their portfolio to, multiple core ranges. But for them, just making Maker's Mark, and Maker's Mark is a mostly corn-based whiskey with a wheat element. So we call it a wheated bourbon. But to be called a wheated bourbon, at least 51% legally has to be the bourbon mash bill, the recipe that makes it up. They make somewhere between 25 and 30 million bottles of Maker's Mark each year. And in Rob Samuels claims, they sell every single bottle they make. They've reached a point in their business that they don't need to really worry about scaling up anymore. They make as much as their demand is, and they're really happy as a business, that side of the business. And one of the cool things that he took us through, a lot of distilleries, when they scale up, they just take whatever their production line is, the size of their stills, and they double and they triple it in size. They will increase the size, the volume, the liters, or the cubic meters of their footprint to scale up. Rob Samuels goes, that's going to be changing the fundamental flavors and how we work. So rather than scale up in volume, he just built a replica of his existing distillery right next door to each other. It's the same stills, everything's kept the same size, nothing changes. It's just a mirrored image. And then when they needed to scale again, they just doubled it again. So then they have 4 distilleries next door to each other, all mirrored exactly the same. The bottling, they have, someone works on the bottling plant over there. The bottling plant doesn't go to a random warehouse. The whole thing's sort of, if you ever go there, it's just one of these 4 versions. It's all sort of a replica of the original. And that's how they've scaled up. And again, it's lessons like that, he said, it helped him form what they wanted to do next. Now, the Star Hill Farms, and why it's called Star Hill Farms is the distillery is on a farm called Star Hill Farms. And for them, they always wanted to do something to give back to the environment. And he's very much, I think he still loves whiskey making, he loves distilling, but his focus in life and what he wants to leave for the future generations is regenerative farming. And what that is basically is after a certain period of time, it could be 8, 9, 10, 12 harvests, all the nutrients that is grown out of that crop is going to be gone. And then the quality, because we're creating produce. We grow it, the grain, we mill it, we mash it, we add some yeast to it, we distill it twice, and it becomes a whiskey. It's an agricultural product, and he's done a lot of research, and he's working with several of the universities around there in terms of the yield and flavors that come out of his grain. And he's worked out that without this regenerative practice of farming, the flavors and the quality of the grain is going to diminish in the next 30, 40, 50 years. So he started this project where he now gets a bunch of different farmers together, and they will rotate the crops. If you're a cattle farmer, most farmers in the States, no one talks to each other. He says very much is in silos. If you grow cattle or sheep, you don't talk to your neighbors' farmers. It's very much a dog-eat-dog industry. Everyone's sort of fighting for themselves. He's brought dozens, hundreds of farmers now together to the point where, and he's organizing the transport. He's like, let's get your cattle onto your grain crops and let's rotate. So then you get those nutrients back in the ground. And over time, where one paddock is full of wheat, the next time after harvest, it'll be full of sheep. And then maybe they'll grow, instead of wheat there, they'll grow barley or corn, and they will rotate the crops. Maybe they'll do a whole different grain. And the whole point is to bring diversity back into the ecosystem. He's taken it one step further, where if a farmer is struggling in the States, they've started a charity, and every bottle that's sold from Star Hill Farms is now going to fund that charity, where they will buy the land. And any farm that's internationally owned in the States, he's buying it because he wants all farmland back in the States in American hands. And that's something really important for him because he wants to secure the land for future American generations. So he's very much a patriot in that way. So, and then half the farmland that they're buying, when they're not using it, they're turning it back into forests because they want to actually plant trees. They want to get all the native animals back in there. So for him, it's very much, a transition. Maker's Mark is the business. It does everything they need it to be. Star Hill Farms is the future of getting flavor back into whiskey, first and foremost. Getting Americans jobs and helping farmers out is really important to him. And then three is buying land to actually just return to forests. And that's kind of the three pillars of the Star Hill Farms experiment. It's 100% wheat. So there's, sorry, not terrible. Let me take that back. It is 51% soft red winter wheat, 27% malted soft red winter wheat. So he's experimenting with different wheat types. And then it's 22% malted barley. So there is no corn in this whatsoever. Any questions, feedback so far? I know I've kind of been talking on the business side of things, but that is, hopefully that's making sense so far. I can see here, this is a good American whiskey, but ain't no scotch.
Yeah,
Thank you, Howard.
I kind of agree with that, Leo. Like he's very good. It's definitely a pink marshmallow style American whiskey. And yeah, some of you in the chat will know that for me, American whiskeys are either marshmallows or pickles. And I'm a sweet tooth, so I love the marshmallow whiskeys. But yeah, it's very like pink marshmallow sweetness and yeah, really, really lovely like cola bottle lollies. Yeah, Sebastian, it's nice. Not my favorite of the night, but I do like it. Yeah, I definitely really enjoy it. And I think that kind of component as well about the agricultural side, and it's, I mean, kind of ironic that, in this modern era, we're having to turn to old traditional practices that are, deeply rooted in early agricultural, ways of thinking, like the Egyptians and stuff, where they would rest fields because they needed it. So it's kind of nice to see that we're kind of returning to that. And yeah, agriculture in America is struggling quite a bit. So yeah, it's really, really good to see. Howard, finally something to mix with Coke, however you want to drink it. If you buy a bottle, you drink it however you want.
I did take this bottle. So we opened it in Canberra, taken it to Melbourne, to Brisbane. I've finished it actually the other night. But yeah, two really cool things. It's a yearly vintage, so both the mash bill and the grains, because he mentions here soft red winter wheat and malted soft red. Like each year is going to be different type of wheat and barley depending on which farm yields the best flavor, which I think is really cool. It's a limited yearly vintage as well. So this is obviously 2025. And then, yeah, it's 57.4%. So the ABV is obviously going to change. And for them, they want to have a bit of a library over time with each of the vintages. So they're not going too far down the wine routes, but it's still very much they're taking some lessons from viniculture basically and bring it into the bourbon world, which is really cool. Pappy Van Winkle is probably the most famous wheated bourbon out there, and sort of a huge, expensive collector's item. If you can't afford that, or can't even find it because it's half the time's always gone, this is a really nice alternative as well. I think the flavors it's not as hardcore some of the Wellers out there, but yeah, it's definitely up there. It's cool.
Yeah, 100%. I like that Rob's fly didn't like it. It went and nosedived straight for the Bushmills 18. But yeah, I think it is hard as well when you've got a lineup full of amazing Scottish and Irish whiskey for it to stand out. But I'm not a particularly massive fan of wheat whiskey, and I think someone else said it earlier, and I completely agreed that yeah, I like it over the Weller stuff. Yeah, Matthew prefers over the Weller range, and yeah, so do I. I think it's got a little bit more chewiness to it, a little bit more oomph. But yeah, I might run the poll now, and we will see. We will truly see what the pick of the evening is. So I will let you guys vote for that now. I obviously understand there's probably not going to be as much love for the Star Hill, but yeah, it'll be curious to see what comes of it. But otherwise, how did you guys like this tasting? Let me quickly, I know that where is it? Let me find, I put the URL link somewhere and now I've lost it. There we go. All right. So this is one of those rare tastings where we do have bottles of everything available. I've just shared the link in the chat. If you did want to grab anything at all, we're doing a 10% off all of these for you. It'll apply automatically when you go to checkout. And I think, which one was it? Ollie has 20% off?
Bushmills, I think.
Bushmills. Okay. The Bushmills is 20% off because why not?
They gave us a decent margin, and they said we're allowed to pass it on to the consumer. Bushmills are really good people. We've done plenty of tastings of them. They yeah, too many distilleries are going up in prices, and Bushmills are one of the few, definitely the one Irish that we love that just understands the consumer and doesn't want to piss off the drinker. Basically, at the end of the day, they know we've found a drinker that's happy and keeping value. Doesn't matter how old and impressive a whiskey is. If there's no value at the end of this ratio, you'll just vote with your wallets and go somewhere else.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, I mean, in terms of like bang for buck, old age statement, whiskies, Bushmills, surprisingly has it. But yeah,
And I got one quick story before you share the results.
Go on, I'll allow it.
We've talked about the Bunnahabhain 21 that's coming. That almost did not happen. So they originally going to keep it as a cellar door exclusive, and then the powers to be go, no, let's make it the UK exclusive, because getting to Islay, even when you live in Edinburgh or London, is still quite tricky. The rest of the export markets, us included, we are kicking up a storm. Like, we are yelling and kicking doors. We stopped begging. We just demanding you cannot ignore your Bunnahabhain fans around the world. This is ridiculous. And Canada, Japan, Taiwan, even China, everyone's just knocking on their doors going, this is ridiculous. And they, for a long time, said, there's just not enough. Sorry, come to Islay. It's a cellar door exclusive. Stop asking us. And it was very weird. We haven't had this reaction for them for a while, but I don't know what was going on. Maybe there was a new head of marketing or something like that. But long story short, we thought nothing was going to come off it. 6 hours before they launched it, they sent it an email to several export markets, not all export markets. And they go, guess what? We've changed our minds. You've convinced us. We're going to send you a few bottles to Australia. I'm just like, no, it's just not good enough. We need more than a few bottles. Like we need 100 at least. Like, you're joking otherwise, because there's so many of you who love Bunnahabhain. So we just cannot. It would be unfair to just bring in 6 bottles, and that's originally what they offered us. So, yeah. Long story short, we've got the bottles. They're on their way. They'll be here very, very soon in the next couple of weeks. I imagine. I haven't got the tracking code in front of me, but they have departed. So yeah, just these things happen all the time. Global markets, conditions, everything changes. People in distilleries changes. But the one thing we will do as an importer and distributor is, we know if you love these products, we will protest and fight tooth and nail to get you the whiskey you love. That's our promise at the end of the day. That's all Emma and I can do in the team, and hopefully you enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm super looking forward to these. And excuse the pun, the departed spirits that are on their way to us. But yeah, when I was at Bunnahabhain last year, I sat down with the distillery manager, Andrew. He'd put the 21-year-old cask strength in a lineup for me, and he and I have the exact same palate. And I was like, I need more of this in my life right now. And I think I came home, told the guys, and I was like, we need to get this. But yeah, we're super excited to finally be able to have it on our shores soon. But I will officially end the poll. Everyone has voted. I love it. Thank you. And we will do a drum roll. But I think Leo predicted it. Oh no, Rob predicted it, that the Bunna would come out on top. So the Bunnahabhain leading the pack, number 1, Ledaig following close behind. And then the Thompson brothers, Bruichladdich, and then bit of love for the Thompson port cask and the Starhill, and then Bushmills bringing up the rear just. But yeah, thank you so much, guys, for joining us. Let me know as well, like to see if you guys have more of these mixed distillery bundles, because we oftentimes get it where like we'll get 1 or 2 bottles from somewhere and it's not enough to make a full tasting. So have you enjoyed this? Would you like to see it mixture again? I see some yeses and nods and thumbs ups. Perfect, amazing. More all caps. I appreciate it. But yeah, thank you so much, guys, for tuning in, joining along, and leave the American stuff. Well, some people like it, you know? Doesn't float everyone's goat, but but yeah. Thank you so much, and we will catch you at the next one. Take care, everyone. Bye.
See you all.